Hello, this is COVID-19 data analysis. The things that I'm going to be looking into are the death rate of China and the US, and I'll be looking at the confirmed cases compared to the deaths. I'm interested to see what the death rate is between these two countries, considering one of them is where this whole pandemic started, and then the US where we currently reside. I'm also looking into the death rates per state for the US. Curious to see if the Midwest has any lower percentage than the more populated areas such as the coastal states. Wanting to see that if those areas that are more populated on the coast have a different death rate and or a different number of overall tests for people who tested positive. So as you can see on this first one here, this is a chart between China and the US. You can see the confirmed cases over here on the left side. You can see the deaths over here on the right, and it's pretty interesting to look at. China has the low death rate compared to the US. Even though China has a greater population, it only has a 5.52% death rate for the people who had tested positive and confirmed cases, and the death rate for the US as of April 30th on here was 5.89% of the people who tested positive and were confirmed with a COVID-19 case. So for this one, I was interested to see the different numbers of total tests given out per state and to see the amount of confirmed cases. So for example here, Montana, they have 453 cases confirmed and 13,914 total cases. So the percentage chance that if you are sick and went and got tested, you have a 3.26% chance of testing positive for COVID-19. Now, whether or not that could be a false positive test or if these are actually confirmed, it says confirmed on here, but there's a chance that it could be a false positive because that percentage seems a little high, but it's not as high as it is over here in New York, where you have a 33% chance of testing positive if you have the symptoms and you go get tested and get checked. One thing that I found interesting about this map is that over here in the Midwest area, you can tell they have a lot lower numbers. Now, I don't know if that necessarily means that they did social distancing better than anybody or that they quarantined and listened to the rules. I think it has to do with the population and the size of the region. You can see Montana over here is one of the bigger states, and it has some of the least amount of cases as compared to, like I said, New York earlier, or even down here in Florida. That's something interesting to look at. And all these coastal states and cities over here have some pretty high numbers, and they're a pretty high traffic area. Once you start getting up here into the north in Maine and New Hampshire, the numbers are kind of dwindling. But for your main port cities over here in Florida, Texas, California, Washington State, and even here in the Midwest, Indiana, Ohio, and Tennessee, they have some pretty high numbers as well. Now, if you look at the deaths compared to the overall tests, what your percentage chance of dying from COVID if you get tested, like I said over here, Wyoming has a really, really low death rate for the total people tested. Out of the 9,446 people tested in Wyoming, it looks like 7 confirmed cases of deaths. So you're at a 0.074% chance of death if you get tested. Now, that doesn't mean if you're a healthy person and you go get tested that you have that same percentage of dying. It's just if you have the symptoms and you went and got tested for it, those are the percentages they are showing. Over here, like I said again, it's really low in the Midwest over here in this region of the country as compared to on the East Coast, with New York being at a 2.619%. It's looking like they've had 23,000 people die due to the COVID, and they've almost had 1 million people tested, which is kind of alarming because that's kind of the epicenter of America right now, and the fear is that it's going to spread everywhere else. But if you look around the states around it, we've done a pretty good job of closing down, the state lines and keeping people quarantined and social distancing aspects. Down here in Florida, they have a pretty decent death rate percentage is low, 0.3. All these cities that had the most confirmed cases are obviously the ones that have the higher death rates because there's just a greater population of them. And then here in the Midwest again, like I said, has the lower death rate, which is pretty interesting to look at. Like I said, just because they've larger area doesn't necessarily mean that they can social distance any better. It just means that they're already automatically spread out. And pretty interesting to see. And I wonder if there would be anything to do with lack of high traffic area through this region of the country as opposed to the Midwest right through here. They call it Indiana Crossroads of America, and you can tell there's a lot of travel through these states. As you can tell, the numbers are increasing over here compared to the farther west you go. Pretty interesting to look at. So, and for my references, I used Statista for the state-by-state death rate. And if we go back and look at the death rates that I found through here, New York's at 2.16 as of yesterday, and today that has dramatically decreased. These are all tested out of April 30th. That's what I set the date to. And it's looking like all these states have decreased, which is showing that social distancing is working. I believe New York was 1.14, and some of these other states like New Jersey has been going down. It was a high one as well. The leader is still New York, followed by New Jersey as of now, even though it looks to be the opposite as of April. So that's a good sign. And then I also got my data from the starter dashboard from Tableau.com, and I used some of their data that they had, and I brought it in to make my own graphs and charts. So I was able to better understand and look at the data points and analyze the different death rates and the percentages of people who are dying across the country and across the world compared to China. Thank you.